Okay friends, let's get going on this left rear caliper. First we're going to remove our 19mm lug nuts. Safely remove your wheel. Next we're going to remove this 10mm headed bolt. Lift up this. Awesome. So from the back side of the caliper you can see the mounting bolts. Those are going to be 15mm, and we're just going to remove those so we can take the pads out of here. Leave that like that. Remove the upper one. Grab a little pry bar here. Lift it up off of here. Next we're going to remove the pads. There's one. Pad number 2. Now I'm just going to take those same caliper bolts and I'm going to start them in a few good threads because we need this to be semi-secured. Still moves, but the caliper can't actually physically come off. Next, what we need to do is we need to come right in here. And what you're going to notice is that the emergency brake cable has these little tabs, and that's just what holds it to the bracket. So you can either use some pliers, which, good luck, or you can use the tool that's specifically made for it, okay? And it just has this little circle with a slot so you can get it over the wire part of the cable. Go right in just like this, and then pull this cable out of here. There we go. Let me get this back off of here. There we go. Okay, so for the next step, you're going to want to make sure you have hand protection, eye protection, and of course a collection bucket, because what we're going to be doing is removing this banjo bolt. When you remove this, fluid's going to be able to come through your flex hose, so you're going to need a tool like this to pinch off that hose. And of course a little bit's going to want to make its way down, and hopefully it'll go into the collection bucket and not contaminate the ground. Grab your 12mm socket and remove this banjo bolt. Okay, so we have our flex hose here, and what we have also is the banjo bolt with one of the gaskets. There should be 2, and generally speaking there'll be one on one side of the flex hose and one on the other. You want to make sure that you don't have either of those copper gaskets on the flex hose, and we're going to recycle this stuff right here. Okay, so we brought our caliper over to the bench because we need to prep it. What I mean by that is we're going to take off the caliper slider bolts here and separate the 2 pieces. You have the caliper portion and the bracket portion. I'll set the caliper portion aside and start with the bracket. When we start with the bracket, it's important to remember that these are caliper sliders, okay, and they need to be able to function. So what I like to do is open it up, make sure there's grease, which there is, but personally I like a little bit more. Slide it up on there, slide it right in. Do the same to the other one. We're going to continue with the grease. Go right along this area right here, here, and the same on the other side. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put on these brand new tins that we got. You want to take a look at them, and you want to make sure that you can tell that there's a flat side and a hooky-doo side. And when you turn it this way, you also have a flat side and a hooky-doo side. So the hook that's off on the side needs to go out and away from the rotor, and the side that hooks up needs to hook up and away from the bottom of the caliper bracket. Slide that in there, just like that. We're going to do the same to all the rest. All right, just make sure you clean up any grease that might be sitting along the inside here. Move along to the muscle of the caliper. We have the piston area, and then of course these areas. And those are the areas that are going to be hitting up against the pad, so we need to make sure that we put a little bit of lubricant on those, and that's going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. All right, let's set this portion of the caliper aside. Now we're going to go back to our old caliper. The reason for that is because we need to take off this portion right here. This is a vibration dampener, and you need to have it on the new caliper. To remove it, you can grab right here with some pliers and twist it right off. This just screws right on here, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to wait on this portion. I'm going to screw this on when we're done. I just want to show you what it's for. Let's go back over to the vehicle. So let's get our caliper bracket mounted on here. We're going to bottom these right out. Let's torque them to manufacturer specifications. 98 foot-pounds. Torqued. So let's take our caliper, bring it to the e-brake cable, just like this. Now what you're going to want to pay attention to is you have your bracket and your brake cable. We're going to have to pull in the caliper to the point that the e-brake cable goes through this bracket area. Slides right through. Awesome. So now's the time to put in your pads. We're actually doing a complete rear brake job on this personally, but for the purpose of this video, we're only showing you how to do the caliper. But the process for putting in the pads and continuing on from here will be the same whether you're using old or new. Beautiful. Pad should slide around nice and easy. We're going to take our caliper and slide it right over the top of this. Next, we're going to take our 2 caliper mounting bolts here and start those into the caliper sliders. The ones with the stud goes on the bottom. Bottom those out and we'll torque them down to manufacturer specifications. Torque these to 19 foot-pounds. Torqued, torqued. Now let's remove our caliper banjo bolt. This should have 2 copper washers on it, just like that. And these are actually the gaskets. Double check your hose, make sure it's clean, and there's no actual original gasket on there. This looks great. I'm going to take my banjo bolt with one of my gaskets, slide it through. Put my gasket on the other side. It's important to pay attention to this nub right here. It needs to go into the mounting hole that's inside the caliper. That's going to hold it secure so it can't spin around. We'll get this started and then we'll snug it up. All right, let's snug it up. All right, it's bottomed out. Just give it a little extra here. Perfect. Remove your hose crimpers. We'll put on this vibration dampener. It's nice and tight. We're going to come back up to the emergency brake cable and we're going to reinstall this bracket. Hand protection, eye protection still. We've got our collection bucket under there. Remove the brand new boot. You want to make sure you save this because we're going to reuse it, of course. Should want to come off of there. Use your 11mm wrench. Open up this bleeder screw. Now we're just going to watch it and we're going to pay attention for fluid to start coming out. Once it comes out in a steady stream and there isn't very many air bubbles, we'll close it up and then we'll continue with a manual bleed. So we need to remove our brake fluid cover and we're going to add some because as you can tell by moving the reservoir around, I can't see any around the maximum line. We'll add some .3 to get it up to the maximum line, and then we can continue. Reinstall your cap. Okay, so now we're going to continue with our bleeding process. It's important to remember that there is a manufacturer-specific sequence you should go in, so of course you should refer to your manual for that. Assuming you're only replacing this caliper, we're going to start. First, what we need to do is pump up the brakes until the pedal is semi-firm. Okay, once we have 3 good pumps, we're going to hold it. And now I'm going to open up the bleeder screw with my 11mm wrench. I heard the air come out of there. I'm going to close it, and we're going to give it another 3 pumps. All right, now we're going to open it up again, and we're going to watch for some fluid. That's looking good. As you see all those spurts, that's air coming out. We need to pay attention to make sure we have a constant flow of solid fluid and no air. I'm going to close this. And we're going to do it again. 3 pumps, please. All right, I got some air on that one, but it was only 1 air bubble. You would continue this process until you have no more air coming out. Once again, please. Oh, I got a little air bubble. You need to pay attention for those air bubbles. Every one counts, and it's going to make the difference between having a solid brake pedal and a spongy brake pedal. Keep going until you have no air coming out. Okay, so let's clean up our mess. Let that dry. Reinstall your bleeder screw cover. Let's reinstall our wheel. And of course, start all the lug nuts. Let's bottom out these lug nuts. Now we'll torque them down to manufacturer specifications. Okay, so now let's torque these to manufacturer specifications, which is 100 foot-pounds. Torqued.